first thing to say before I say anything, there's a lot that I have to say, and none of it, I promise you, none of it is with malice or ill intent. The last 2.5 weeks have been something that are indescribable for myself and my family, particularly as it relates to my family. And my only concern over that time has been the health, the physical health and emotional health of my wife and my son. Because since, I don't know what the day was, I don't know if it's Friday the 26th or the 25th, something like that, of January, we've been inundated with death threats, several threats of vulgarity. People have told me they're going to rape my wife, they're going to kill me, they're going to leave my son an orphan. And for what? For what you expressed out here tonight? That said, the first thing that I would do, the first thing that I think is important here, is to apologize if it means something, though. Because it seemed that people were saying two things. They're saying apologize, but get the hell out of here. I mean, that's two different things. Now I would say, Mr. Mayor, I hope you get your support on this. I sat here for all 50-something speakers and gave you all respect, and I didn't smirk at all. It was funny that someone was thinking I was Steve. I felt bad for you on that, Steve. So I was laughing at your smirk. But I'm not smirking at anybody. I give everyone 100% respect. And I sat here silent out of respect for you. Now, if my comments, any comments that I've ever made, anytime, today, tomorrow, whenever, if any words attributed to me have ever offended anybody, unintentionally, whatever is attributed to me at this point, no one in this room no one who's sitting here in this room was a part of that conversation. So I wasn't thinking about you. I didn't have you on my mind. I didn't have any desire to hurt you. So I don't understand why someone would take it so personal. But then, if we go a little bit further, let me tell you a story about how I first became how I first became, and I would call myself a pacifist, capital P. It's not necessarily what we're talking about here, but I mean, based on all the things that people have said. When I was a little boy, my family was from East Los Angeles, like a lot of people came from East Los Angeles to Pico Rivera. It was, the step up. We actually had a, backyard and a front yard. I mean, everyone kind of has that story who grew up in Pico starting in the 60s, 70s, 80s, no doubt about it. And I remember there was this picture in my great-grandma's home, and it was 3 army photos, and there were those old-fashioned photos with real elaborate frames, and like the faces were like touched up with the pink rosy cheeks. And there was 3 army men, super handsome, and they were my grandma's brothers, my great-grandma's sons. And there was 3 of them there, and 3 of them were soldiers in World War II. And it was, they were my dad's uncles, and it was Philip, whose name was Felipe. There was my dad's uncle Junior, I'm not even sure what his real name was, and then there was my dad's uncle Joe, whose name was Jose. And I would see him up there, and I always wondered, like who were they? And then my grandma would tell me, those are my brothers, but Joe didn't come back, and she'd get real emotional about it. I mean, she'd get the picture, and she'd kiss it all the time. And I was a little boy. I was younger than my son is now. And I would see that, and right at that point, I'm probably 7 or 8 years old, I started thinking, but for what? Like, what was the reason that he wasn't even born in the United States? I mean, what was the reason that he was dead? And she didn't know. She couldn't explain it to me. My dad didn't really, we went to war, he got drafted, that sort of thing, but I was just thinking, but he died and he never came back? And I just thought there was something wrong about that, something upside down about that. And as I grew up, I even started thinking about it more, where did that whole concept of war even start? Like, where did the first group of people who had an issue with each other, how did they think, hey, we're upset with those guys. Maybe it was in some African village, hundreds of thousands of years, whatever happens to be. And someone said that those people over on the other side of that hill, we have a philosophical difference with them. And how did someone first say, some advisor, how did they go to them, why don't we go over that hill and kill them? And that'll solve everything. That never made sense to me. And we look at it back then as completely, the way I just described it, completely barbaric, but completely true. And that's what has happened. Yet, these days, we still do the same thing. And I think it's shameful for our world leaders to do that, whether it's the American government or any other government. So I am a pacifist. I am opposed to any sort of violence. When we're talking about this poor kid across the street at El Rancho, there's been a lot of people who have outreached to me about how they're upset with him. No, leave that boy alone. He has nothing to do with it. I'm a pacifist. If any of you people are going to try to do me any harm, I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to. I'll defend myself and protect myself. I'm not going to fight you. And I've been threatened with all kinds of different violence over the last 2.5 weeks. I had to come in through. I had to get wanted. It's not because of me. It's because of you. It's because of the people who are trying to harm me. No. But I have not been in any way antagonistic against you. Any comments attributed to me were definitely out of context. Definitely. And I would ask you, I guess this is probably what I first should have said. I would ask you to actually listen to me with the same intensity that you've criticized me. I would think you would owe me that. Because you were very intense in your criticism. I sat here and I listened. I didn't laugh at you, not once. And I wouldn't ever tell any of you guys to leave a town. I would never do that. My goal, as it relates to my students related to the military, is to get them to do everything to get to college. It's not just the military. I don't want them to work at a fast food restaurant either. And any comment related to, it's out of context. I'm talking about their academic standing. I don't think it's at all a revelation to anybody that those who aren't stellar students usually find the military a better option. That's as plain as that it's Tuesday night. But that's not a criticism of anybody. Anything I said had nothing to do with their moral character. Why would all of our families have military backgrounds. Why would I criticize myself on that? And my family, that's not my point. My point was to get my students to focus and challenge them to reach their academic potential. Now, if anyone was to have issues with the manner in which I do it, that's fair. We're all accountable. I would accept that easily. But that's a whole different process, though. And typically the way these things work, I even had a situation with my own son, who goes to school here in this community. He goes to Durfee Elementary. He's the top student in his class. I mean, so we love our schools here in the El Rancho Unified School District. My wife and I met across the street. We're high school sweethearts. We live right down the street. I grew up right here. I'm not leaving Pico. I mean, I think we represent the best of Pico. I'm active at... Well, I don't think there's sincerity in dialogue, at least the same decency that I afforded you with at least the people who I see here and the people who must be out there. But I would just hope that you would try to see how my family has been affected simply by the fact that you and I disagree on something. I don't think people in the military have low moral character. I think people in the military or students who actually look to the military are lower standing students. That's not a moral judgment on them. That's what I was saying that day. That's what I intended to say. If it didn't come out that way, those were my words, and that's what I intended to say. Now, where would the people in this room in this city stand on the fact of the threats that I've received? Just before I got here, someone calls my phone and there was more F words than anything. And I think a big problem here, bear with me, is that that's wrong.
Sir, please, let's not get into it. Let's just give him an opportunity to speak. I'm with you. Trust me, I'm with you. But let's just afford him that. It's been 2 weeks since we've listened to or heard anything from him. So let's let him speak, and then
Well, what I want to show you, though, because I think something that really is a big issue is that my social media accounts have been hijacked, and people have said things to inflame me. If you look at my social media, it's about me and my family enjoying ourselves. I mean, that's it. And someone put on there, which someone referenced here, where someone said, and it was F words all over the place, and then my social media account doesn't have anything like that. I mean, my son's in half of my pictures, me and my wife and my son. And someone said something like, F you guys, F veterans, particularly World War II and Vietnam veterans, and I have my freedom of speech. I never looked at this as any kind of freedom of speech issue. That's not the way I was talking about it. So, I very frankly, I don't have much more to say on this because, and I didn't speak for 2 weeks. I apologized already. I didn't speak for 2 weeks because my only priority for 2 weeks was making sure my wife and son were safe. And the sheriff department can back up the threats that were coming against us. They can back that up. So that was my priority. My priority, even right now, I'm not trying to win an argument with you. I will explain something if you want me to. But in situations like this where it's emotional, no one's interested in listening to anybody. I proved that I could listen to you, knowing that you were going to come up here and kill me. And I listened, respectfully. And anything that I'm saying you disagree with, you just mock me. And that's fine if that's the way you want to do it. But I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of myself and the love that we've raised our son with. And we love Pico. There's no way that anyone can say that I am bad for Pico Rivera. If this situation caused a problem, I certainly do apologize for it. If anything that I've said has hurt somebody, it was unintentional. And I hope that that apology could be taken sincerely. Why would I want to hurt anybody? I may have had an opinion that is different from yours, and that's it. If there was something that was improper in the way that I expressed something as it relates to my profession, I have to be accountable for that. And there's no problem with that because I would expect it as it relates to my son. So I have no problem with that. I'm not trying to fight with you. We just have a difference of opinion probably on one item. But that does not deserve the way that people have treated me for 2.5 months. And it hasn't necessarily been Pico people from all over the country, threatening me in all kinds of different ways. But I'm here, and I'm available to you if you ever want to talk to me as a person. But as it is here, I don't think I'm getting the same respect that I offered you. So I don't want to make more of a circus than it already is. So,
You don't deserve it.
I deserve it. Everybody does.
That said, I'm going to move on to my colleagues, and so we can move on to this resolution. Would you like to?
Think about them all the time.
Okay.
Got a wonderful family.
Councilmember?
Ask somebody.
Sure.
Ask somebody.
So, guys, please, let's move on. We have a resolution on the table.